There once was a time when no one bought tissues because they didn't exist, and yet people still cried and people still got sick. Instead, they used something far more special, a handkerchief. And it could do more than any disposable tissue ever wished it could. It could wipe away your tears, it caught the sweat from a long day, was given as a quiet gesture of love, or just as easily tied over your face to rob a bank. The handkerchief actually meant something to people. They kept it for a very long time, they cared for it, it was something that moved with you through the highs and lows of life. And then one day, it disappeared. A company called Kleenex convinced the world that what they were carrying was nothing more than just a disgusting little rag. And so, what people carried for literally thousands of years was replaced by something you use once and throw away. But these gross little cloths, I assure you, were pretty useful. Current generations, I think, are pretty clueless as to what a handkerchief is, which is kind of funny because they're literally older than the pyramids themselves. And just a quick clarification before we dive in, you'll notice throughout this video that I'm showing several different kinds of handkerchiefs. That's because throughout history, they took on many different forms, such as a bandana, neckerchiefs, and many fashionable scarves that were considered variations of the same basic handkerchief. And its story goes back thousands of years, all the way back to ancient China. Archaeological evidence from around 1000 BC shows figurines from the Zhou dynasty holding mysterious little pieces of cloth. Experts believe these cloths were used for common everyday purposes, like shielding one's face from the hot sun, or much like how we use tissues today, blowing your nose. As they have shown up in numerous societies over time across the world, it's very clear these cloths became an essential part of daily life. And by the early 20th century, people really did use them for just about everything. Runny noses, wiping sweat off of your forehead, fixing your makeup, cleaning up small messes. It was a practical, multi-purpose tool you always had on you for pretty much anything life threw at you. And because of this, they were very easy to obtain. Since they were just small pieces of cloth, made from either cotton, linen, or silk, many people just made them at home. But by the early 1900s, the Industrial Revolution was in full motion and had made them cheap and wildly available, so nobody had to suffer without one. For instance, in 1924, you could purchase a fancy imported one for just 10 cents or snag a deal 6 for 55 cents, just in case you lose one, tear another, or had a particularly messy day. Remember, these were not disposable. People actually took very good care of them. They were hand washed, ironed, and reused, and often rotated throughout the day. In fact, it was standard for mothers to send their kids to school with two. One to show to your classmates you were clean, and another one to actually use. And let me be very clear, it's important to understand that you would never, ever just stuff these into your pocket. The handkerchief was viewed as a delicate, special item, treated as a true fashion accessory. Men would carefully fold theirs and place it in their breast pocket, a pocket specifically designed to hold a man's handkerchief, which kept it separate from the dirt and coins in his other pockets. Women would wear theirs more creatively, either tucked in their sleeve, tied on their wrist or purse, styled as a decorative collar, or even worn in the hair. And if you didn't present to the world that you were carrying one, you would be looked at as dirty or even socially improper. In preparation for the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair, one front page guide laid out the rules for how a man should present himself. And the handkerchief was important enough to earn 3 full paragraphs. It stated that a man should have his handkerchief visibly sticking out of his breast pocket to signal that he owns one and that it's clean. It represented visual proof that someone was clean, had good taste, and was socially aware. There were also guides devoted just to women, ensuring they didn't appear unattractive. One advised, the handkerchief is very much a part of the society woman, and to handle it well is a triumph of culture and good breeding. A proper lady must handle their handkerchief with respect. Don't argue with it. Don't under any circumstances put it in your mouth. Chewing the end is very bad form, though some ladies still do it. Don't play hide and seek with it, and never carry one that is anything less than delicately pristine in its beauty. It should be treated as the most treasured bit of bric-a-brac, and treasured it was. The handkerchief is one of those things that once you look back at any old photographs, historical moments, movies, you will literally notice it everywhere. On the big screen, Charlie Chaplin famously turned a handkerchief into a makeshift bag. Out in the American West, the cowboy's bandana, itself a version of the handkerchief, became just as important as the cowboy hat. In music, performers would pull out their trusty handkerchief to wipe their sweat off their brow, and in stories it was often central to the plot, becoming the very thing that reveals betrayal or proves devotion. The handkerchief naturally became something very personal. You would find many people had their name or initials embroidered into the fabric. It must have been a standard because when I was sifting through old newspapers, you can see embroidery services were practically synonymous with purchasing a handkerchief. This was a very special item after all. So special that eventually handkerchiefs began reflecting culture itself. What started as a simple personal item slowly became something people used to show off their interests and personality. By the 1950s, as production advanced, they were printing everything imaginable on these suckers. Collector Anne Mahoney describes just how varied they became, as there were handkerchiefs with astrology guides on how to find a husband, card game rules, recipes, dance steps, weight loss and fitness routines, music, palm reading guides, you name it, they printed it. They were like an early version of wearing your favorite band on a t-shirt. People grew very attached to these beloved little pieces of cloth, and on some of life's most important days, the handkerchief was often considered an essential. It was common for brides to carry a handkerchief passed down through generations of their family. If you look through old newspaper wedding announcements, you will continuously see mention of brides carrying special handkerchiefs with them, like one woman who carried her great-great-grandmothers down the aisle. People held onto them for the rest of their lives as little reminders of moments and people they came from. My own grandma kept her handkerchiefs safe in a box for her entire life. And when they were finally passed down to me and I went through them, they literally were so well loved that they just disintegrated in my hands. I wish that I could show you them all today, but unfortunately they don't exist anymore. But it makes you think, why did she hold on to these for so long? Like, weren't they just supposed to be for blowing your nose and wiping sweat off your face? Clearly they were more than that. And that's where it starts to become something more than just personal. Because after being carried so closely through everyday life, the handkerchief became almost like an extension of the person themselves, using it to express the wide range of human emotion. Take love, for example. You had to be careful because if you accidentally dropped your handkerchief in front of a man, you could be sending the wrong message. In older traditions, if a young woman dropped her handkerchief in a public park, for example, a place frequented by eligible young men, it could signal that she was open to starting a steamy romance. If she was lucky, the handkerchief would be returned to her, symbolizing mutual interest. You see, this idea echoed in old films and stories alike, where handing over a handkerchief felt almost like giving a piece of your heart to someone you love. It was also commonly used to express excitement. Look at any sporting event in the first half of the 20th century. During those nail-biting moments or bursts of pure magic, crowds would pull out their handkerchiefs, wave them in the air to cheer on their heroes. Does this seem a little familiar? This was essentially an early predecessor to the rally towel. And in moments of sadness, it was always there for you. During times of war, when young men were being sent off to the unknown, the last image they often carried with them was the sight of handkerchiefs waving in the air, used to say goodbye or to wipe away a tear. Name me any other object that was there in people's lives the way the handkerchief was, and then seemingly overnight, it would morph into something else. It all actually began in World War I. A company called Kimberly-Clark developed a special crepe paper used as a filter in gas masks. After the war, they didn't really know what to do with it, so in the 1920s, they turned it into a consumer product. First, deciding to market it to women as a way to remove makeup. They did start to appear on famous movie stars' dressers, but they didn't really take off yet. Knowing the handkerchief was the main competition, the Kleenex company developed a genius marketing strategy. They tapped into a growing fear of germs, something that had been heightened due to the 1918 flu pandemic, and built an entire campaign around it. By the 1930s, Kleenex leaned all the way in and essentially declared war on the handkerchief. Ads like this one from 1931 were practically shoved down your throat and was found everywhere. They took the classic, scientifically proven route, claiming tests revealed the vast numbers of disease germs discharge into a handkerchief during colds, as many as 4,170,000 in a handkerchief used several times. Germs that should be destroyed and are destroyed when you use Kleenex. But if you look at guides from the time, people absolutely took precautions when someone was sick, recommending handkerchiefs to be boiled and cleaned with disinfectants like Lysol, which should absolutely kill those germs. But over the years of persistent marketing, it worked. The use of the handkerchief would slowly fade. By the 1960s, Kleenex had expanded everywhere. There was different box designs, purse packs, travel sizes, making disposable tissues more convenient than ever. By the end of the 20th century, the handkerchief had gone from an everyday essential to something old-fashioned and even a little bit gross. I personally go through tissues and I don't even think about it. I use one, throw it away in the trash, and move on with my life. By the end of the week, I can't tell you how many I've used or where they ended up. I'm just glad that they're there when I need them, and they essentially don't mean anything to me. But then I think about my grandma. Again, she kept hers in a nice box in a safe place her entire life with the intention of passing them down to me. I don't really think about ever saving my tissues for my grandchildren. That's just not a thought in my head. I mean, she came from a time when people actually valued their belongings. And it makes me think about, gosh, like how much stuff do I use, throw away, and I don't even give it a second thought? Our lives today are based around convenience. I mean, 90% of our things are meant to be temporary so that we keep buying. Especially today in American culture, we don't keep things, we don't take care of them, we don't fix them or mend them. Like when you get a hole in your sock, you just throw it away. And somewhere in that major shift that happened, it dramatically changes how we experience the world around us. Because when nothing's meant to last, it's easy to stop noticing it altogether.